It's January 7th, and it's time to talk about the Pirates' expectations for 2025. But right now, they're kind of hard to judge.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Ethan Smith, your host of the Locked On Pirates podcast. I have been your host of the Locked On Pirates podcast since 2020, going into year 4. Well, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, year 5, covering this wonderful team for all of you here on the best network, the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode, folks, is brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball's on tonight, hockey's on, basketball's on. The NFL playoffs are this weekend, and the college football playoff semifinals are on Thursday. So make sure you go to FanDuel.com right now. Let them know that Locked On sent you, and go win some money with some bonus bets. So this whole week, so we're still on 3 episodes a week, little programming note. This whole week is going to be about expectations. And I wanted to just go ahead and outline that now, that we're going to today talk about what the expectations for this Pirates team are right now. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about why not meeting those expectations could be detrimental in a lot of different ways. And then on Thursday, I asked you, the fans, what your expectations of this team is right now going into 2025. And you probably heard it in the intro and saw the title, and you're probably wondering, okay, why is it hard for you, Ethan, to outline what your expectations for this team are at this very moment on January 7th, 2025? Well, there's a lot of factors that go into that decision right now. At this current moment, I cannot in confidence tell you, the viewer, that this Pirates team has gotten any better than it was in 2024. Their only big move that they made so far, big, quote unquote, was adding Spencer Horwitz in the trade with the Cleveland Guardians by moving on from Luis Ortiz and 2 prospect pitchers to fulfill a need at first base, a need that we went into this offseason as fans knowing the Pirates absolutely had to fill. We knew that that was something the Pirates absolutely had to do, was fill that position group somehow. We've talked on this show at length about Brian Reynolds being that player, and Spencer Horwitz is now going to enter into the fold as that player, being a first base option for this team. I want to go back to the New Year's resolution show that I did last week, the last time you saw me, where a lot of the comments were scrutinizing the idea that I said that this Pirates team could win the division in 2025. I firmly believe that. If with the roster they currently have, with the prospects that they currently have, if everything went right, Brian Reynolds is Brian Reynolds, Ke'Bryan Hayes returns to form, O'Neal Cruz ends up being the 30-30 guy we all hope he can be, Spencer Horwitz hits like 270 at first base, Nick Gonzalez continues to be clutch, Henry Davis gets better, the pitching staff is what we think it is, yeah, absolutely, this team can win the division in 2025. But on the flip side of that, right now, it's just, again, goes back to what I said earlier already. It's very difficult for me to say that the expectations for this team have risen any higher, because the team itself, on paper, has not gotten any better. Yeah, Spencer Horwitz is an upgrade, I would say, from a Rowdy Tellez. He's an upgrade from a Connor Joe, or whatever else we've seen from the first base position over the past couple of years. Is he, though, enough of a difference maker at that position to really make it matter? I don't really know yet. None of us really do. But the expectations that can be set on this team can vary. For some of you, the expectations could be just be competitive. Go 80 and 82, but be competitive. Give us something to think about in September. Give us a real shot, a real mindset that this team could go into the postseason in the waning weeks of the year. That could be the expectation for some fans. For other fans, the expectations could be for guys like Paul Skeens, get better, avoid the sophomore slump. Same thing goes for Jared Jones. Let's see some individual improvements that in turn will make the team better. Some of them I outlined already. If Henry Davis can find that offensive spark, if Jack Sawinski can even remotely return to his 2023 form, that would help this team a lot. You hope that David Bednar can get back to his all-star form that he showed in past seasons outside of this year. That could be the expectation for some of you. But if we're talking about the expectations for this team right now, on January 7th, 2025, at this current point, it's just get better than what you've been. That's really what I think the asking price is here. 76 and 86 the last 2 years isn't cutting it. In 2023, and I've said this on the show before, that 76 and 86 looked a lot better than the 76 and 86 we saw in 2024. In due part to the fact that in 2023, O'Neal Cruz didn't play due to injury, and you had a pitching staff that consisted of Mitch Keller, Johan Oviedo, and nothing, pretty much. And then you go into 2024 and you see all these highly touted prospects coming up. Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, Nick Gonzalez becomes a full-timer. Jared Triolo becomes a full-timer. Okay? So you start to see all that happen and you say, okay, well, we got better, right? And for a large chunk of the season, going all the way up even to the trade deadline, they were a better team. They were above 500 at the trade deadline. They were a perennial wild card team in many people's eyes with that pitching staff at the trade deadline. They go out and get Isaiah Connor-Falefa. They go out and get Brian De La Cruz. They go out and get Jalen Beeks. They go get some things to try to make a push. And then August happened. And I think that's a big expectation too, is avoid that stretch of the season that they've had the last 2 years that, by all due accounts, eliminates them from playoff contention. In 2023, it was a 10-game stretch against the Brewers and the Cubs. Last season, it was the NL West stretch. 2025 expectations have to be set accordingly based on wins. Everything else is great. You obviously, and we're going to talk about it on this show, you obviously want to see individual improvements. You want to set individual expectations on players that absolutely have to answer the call in 2025 or they could just be outright out of here. Those guys are like Henry Davis, even a Liover Peguero to a degree, Jack Sawinski, Colin Holderman, David Bednar, Bailey Falter to a degree. These are all guys that absolutely have to either improve or maintain pace. But at this point in where the Pirates are with this regime, the regime being Ben Cherington and company and Derek Shelton and company, at some point, the wins have to get better. You lost 100-plus games in back-to-back years. You get up to 76 wins, which felt like an astronomical improvement from the year prior because it was a 14-win improvement. But you cannot remain stagnant in the one statistic that matters, which is wins. If I'm setting an expectation on this Pirates team right now in January before any other moves happen, before anything else happens, This team absolutely needs to be at least above 80 wins in 2025 for me to even feel remotely good about it. I mean, I'm 80 and 82. You're not going to feel great about it. It's still a losing season, but at least at that point, they improved by 4 games. They improved by a series. And when you look at 76 wins, one series win, if it's a 3-game series, gets you to 78. Another series win gets you to 80. Another one gets you to 82. And this is not a sweep. This is just winning a 3-game series. If you can find a way to get 4 series better in 2025, that's 8 wins better than the year prior. This Pirates team could be 84 and 78. Tell me right now, with the way that this division looks, that record couldn't win the division. Because it very well could, with what has transpired in the NL Central over this offseason and what could still transpire in the NL Central over this offseason. 4 series wins. Doesn't seem too shabby, right? Now's a great time to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Make sure you download the Game Time app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Because, folks, if you know anything about me, I love going to live events, whether it's sports, whether it's a concert, whether it's theater with my godmother, or a comedy show. I love comedy. One of my favorite moments was attending Pirates games all year last year, especially Paul Skeens' debut. The energy and the excitement were unforgettable, and Game Time has made it even easier to get tickets for your favorite events with their new feature, Game Time Picks. This feature filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Recently, I was looking for tickets to a Steeler game. I wanted to go to a Steeler game. I didn't end up going, but I was using the Game Time app, and with Game Time Picks, the deals were amazing. It just didn't shake out for me to be able to go schedule-wise. And, folks, you could even see the view from your seat before you buy. The Super Deal was particularly impressive, offering great seats at unbeatable prices. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Folks, what time is it? It's game time. And welcome back, everybody, to the Locked On Pirates podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team, your Pittsburgh Pirates, and hopefully I'll be getting a nice little IC Light poster for the 2025 season. This background will look a little different at some point. I just got to get around to changing it. We still got Bednar up there. We still got Kutch up there. We got the Georgia stuff back there. The terrible towel. Baby Yoda's still here. He's still there. Savannah Bananas shouted out. Johnstown Mill Rats shouted out right there. Some fun stuff always going on in the background of these shows. After you listen to the show on the evening of January 7th, make sure you listen to Locked On MLB with Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. He's bringing you all of your news and analysis you need for everything you need to know about baseball's offseason, covering the biggest stories around baseball heading into spring training when pitchers and catchers report. Folks, we're 180 days away from opening day. It's going to be back just like that. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. And we just discussed expectations. And my expectations, get 4 series better. That's all I ask. It's a lot easier said than done. Winning 8 more games. Difference between being a playoff team and being at home. Pirates know a lot about being at home. Haven't been in the postseason since 2015. Trying to get back to that promised land. And I've discussed it all offseason about how my expectations for this team could go a different way, how my expectations for this team could either go up or down, but I haven't really spent a whole segment about it. I'm going to start with the down. How do my expectations for this team go down? Well, if the offseason stays course and they decide they don't want to get help in the outfield and start Billy Cook, Nick York, or Joshua Palacios in right field, then I'm going to have some choice thoughts and words because there's guys out there that I think are much better than that. I have spoken, though. Let me stop here for a minute before it sounds bad. Nick York and Billy Cook, I want to see get opportunities. I just don't think that they need to be the flat out starting outfielders. That's what I think my thoughts are on that. But there are options out there still. Via trade, I've brought up Wilyer Abreu a bountiful of times as a potential guy from the Boston Red Sox. I think that would be fun. We're going to talk about Alex Verdugo in the final part of this show because there's a lot of buzz that the Pirates may be interested in Verdugo, and I'll tell you why I like and don't like that. But they absolutely need to still fill some holes here. You look at the bullpen, the unit that could be pointed at as the worst unit that the Pirates had last year, the unit that cost them improving in games because they were among the top 5 worst teams in baseball in blown saves last year, thanks to David Bednar, Colin Holderman, and a host of others who just did not have seasons that they would hope they had. So you still want to improve that group. Could it be improved internally? Sure. You're getting Dauri Moreta back at some point. Johan Oviedo could be a long relief option. To me, Kyle Nicholas showed me a lot. Kerman Majinski showed me a lot. Braxton Ashcraft could be an option there. Mike Burrows could be an option there. Yeah, you can improve that a little bit more internally, I think, than the corner outfield. After Billy Cook and Nick York, you're then talking about Joshua Palacios. You're talking about Jack Sawinski. Shout out to Palacios, still one of my favorite interviews ever on this show. But you have to do something. Could it be Alex Verdugo? Potentially. Could it be somebody else like a Wilyer Abreu? Sure. But there's other spot, like for the expectations to go down for me from that, what I said, 4 series better than what you were last year. I do think if they don't go out and get really anything viable to fill these needs, I'm going to be worried. I mean, I'm already worried regardless. I mean, and I'll just not bury the lead here. Even Verdugo doesn't really move my expectations all that much. Spencer Horwitz hasn't. But how do they go up? One, I think a lot of that hinges on internal improvements that I keep bringing up. I keep bringing up these internal improvements that the team needs, like Henry Davis becoming an offensive threat, Ke'Bryan Hayes staying healthy, O'Neal Cruz reaching that 30-30 potential and being a plus defender or even just an average defender in center field. Nick Gonzalez, Jared Triolo, those guys kind of manning that middle infield. Spencer Horwitz truly fulfilling that first base position. The starting pitching staff being what I expect it to be, which is a top 10 unit in all of baseball with how it's currently constructed. My expectations go up if those things happen. Now, this is baseball we're talking about. Nothing is perfect in baseball. Nothing ever will be. You're going to have injuries. You're going to have guys regress. You're going to have guys have cold spells. You're going to have guys look like shells of their 2024 self. Who knows? Maybe Joey Bart doesn't come back and be an offensive threat at the catcher position. Could very well happen. But if you go out and you get a quality corner outfielder, if you go out and improve the bullpen a little bit, if you go out and maybe add a veteran starter somehow, I think myself, you, the listener, truthfully, the team would feel a lot better. Because then at least you're showing a willingness to fill your holes. You're showing a willingness to say, okay, we're going to go out here now and see if we can figure this out. Wouldn't you want to give yourself the best opportunity to improve by my expectations, which is, again, 4 series better, 4 series wins better? Do you think an Alex Verdugo or a Willie Abreu could do that for you? Not by themselves, but maybe Spencer Horwitz, Alex Verdugo, a bullpen arm, and a starting pitcher could. Maybe a healthy Key Brian Hayes could. You consider all these things and you could say, yeah, I think I feel pretty good about this. And I think you have to. Because again, and I will continue to say this to you all, leading all the way up to when we do that NL Central roundtable again before the season, any team in this division can win this division this year. Just based off of the moves that have happened in the offseason, I think the Pirates, Cardinals, Reds, Brewers, or Cubs could all win the division, and I wouldn't be shocked. That's just my feelings on it, because it's just that kind of division. It's a very winnable division. It's a division that is up for grabs with the right moves. We've seen the Chicago Cubs add Kyle Tucker. We've seen the Milwaukee Brewers move on from Willy Adames and Devin Williams. We've seen the Reds add Gavin Lux. We've seen the Cardinals do nothing, truthfully, except try to move on from Nolan Arenado. So with the right roster moves, with the right acquisitions, yeah, your expectations could move. But if they stand pat and do nothing, folks, I won't blame you for having low expectations. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make sure you go to FanDuel.com right now. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $250 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Folks, right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a 8.5-point underdog against the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday night in the wild card. Steelers are 3-1 all time against the Baltimore Ravens in the playoffs. And funny enough, this will be the first time that the Steelers ever face off with the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore in the postseason. So if you want to bet on that, have fun. There's a lot of other things you can bet on, like MLB futures, college basketball, the NBA, the NHL, so much more. Because guess what? All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $250 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and, of course, an official sponsor, the Locked On Podcast Network. And welcome back to the final part of today's episode of Locked On Pirates, everybody. Thank you for always tuning into this show, as you always do on YouTube and all of your favorite audio platforms. My name is Ethan Smith. We'll be talking about that more later as we exit the show. But wanted to touch on the Alex Verdugo stuff that dropped today from MLB Trade Rumors and, of course, Robert Murray, who discussed on Fansided that the Pittsburgh Pirates could be showing interest to Alex Verdugo. So let's get into this. Just on the surface with Alex Verdugo, not a needle-moving move. I don't think it really tips the scales too much. Could he give you a win or two more? Maybe. Is he a better option than what you have out there right now? Probably, I would argue. 29-year-old, obviously played with the Yankees last year. Got off to a pretty good start, but did not have a great season overall with the Yanks. 233, 291, 356 batting line. Yeah, not great. But if you're getting antsy about that start, where in his first 140 plate appearances, he slashed 275, 362, and 450. That starts to sound a lot better. Now, with Verdugo, you've seen him be pretty good in Boston. You've seen him be okay. Never been a big power guy. Let's go ahead and throw that out there. Some people do get a misconception about Alex Verdugo that he does have pop. Not really. Has hit 13 homers at most, I believe, in his career. I believe he's done that 3 times now. But there's always room for contact, I think, is what I kind of want to drive as a force here with Verdugo. There's always room for a guy that can hit for contact. Spencer Horwitz, I think, could be that kind of player. Because at this point, for the Pirates, yeah, it would be great to have a guy that could come in and hit 250, 260, and jack 20 bombs. It would be wonderful. Not a lot of that out there, at least within the financial parameters of how the Pirates operate. So your next best thing is players like Spencer Horwitz and Verdugo, for instance, who MLB Trade Rumors pointed out is tied for 5th in the majors in doubles dating back to 2020. So you wonder, okay, where does Verdugo fit? What kind of player is he here? What does he do for this team? Again, not a needle-moving move. Many of you, I think, will agree with that. Average enough defensively, I think, to where you wouldn't really notice. He'll make some mistakes. But he's about to be going into his 30s. He's not the Alex Verdugo that a lot of people might be accustomed with from Boston. And at the end of the day, this would be kind of a buy low option for this team. I don't think Verdugo would be very expensive due to the lack of power. He does fill, obviously, a position of need. He is a left-handed bat, which I've been driving that into your heads for about 2 years now to get a player like Alex Verdugo who can, of course, hit from the left side, because the Pirates absolutely need to be able to hit right-handed pitching better. And again, Verdugo's a .8 WAR player last year. Career 12.0 WAR player. He's not flashy. He'll be a signing that a lot of people look at and say, this is just the same old dumpster diving move. I don't think so. I mean, if they get Verdugo, again, I'm not going to jump for jubilation that they acquired Alex Verdugo. I would much rather see Anthony Santander or a Wilyer Abreu or a Jarren Duran or, anything on the trade market. But I'm also not going to just chastise the move and say that it would be an absolutely horrible one, because I don't think it would be. And when you're looking at contracts that could be comparable, MLB Trade Rumors did this, and I thoroughly agree. They discussed Max Kepler, who I also thought would have been a very fine addition for this team. He went to the Phillies earlier this year on a 1-year, $10 million guaranteed contract. I think that would work out well for Verdugo. Probably a little less. So I'm thinking in the range of $7.5 to $8.5 million. And if that's all you're doing, a 1-year, $7 or $8.5 million contract for Verdugo, and let's say he comes in and hits 265 and gives you 10 or 15 home runs, or just his max 13, I think you walk away from it not feeling too bad. And at the worst, it at least gives you a veteran presence in an outfield and fills a position in need. So we'll see if the Pirates are actually targeting him. We'll see if the Pirates are actually interested. There's been nothing that really suggests they have outside of that report from Robert Murray and, of course, MLB Trade Rumors. But we'll continue to follow it. And on tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about what's going to happen if this Pirates team doesn't meet expectations in 2025. But until then, folks, my name is Ethan Smith. Find me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan or at Locked On Pirates. You can find the show on YouTube and all of your favorite audio platforms. It's free and available to you, so why not? Hit the subscribe button, subscribe, comment, like, share it with your friends because we're going to be here Tuesday through Thursday all the way up through the middle of February and, of course, on some weekends as well. And, folks, have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday night. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, we'll see you on the flip side.